Hello everybody and welcome into my latest live video. If I actually get the video, there I am. Welcome in everybody. Today it's Monday, March the 6th, 2023. My name is Kerry Holzman and today will be a relatively short video. Just wanted to make you aware of some specials that Amazon has going on right now. I had no idea these were coming. I just happened to stumble onto them today, and these sales, when Amazon does them, I can't find any pattern to them. I don't know how long they last, so it's really important that I get the information out as quickly as possible so that you have an opportunity to respond before the prices go back up or the product becomes sold out. So as mentioned in the title, there are a couple deals going on right now here at Amazon in the USA. Let me share with you my screen so you can see these specials that are happening right now. First, I want to start with the Samsung 970 EVO NVMe drive. There we go. Just trying to get the screen up. So the last time I saw these at $129 was 2 years ago. They've been hovering between $139 and $159 for the last 2 years. So anybody who bought one of these at that price 2 years ago, you can understand what a great deal that was. It's only just now that it's back to that $129.99 price tag. This is the Samsung 970 EVO Plus. It's a Generation 3 NVMe solid state drive. It is probably the drive I've used the most often in my builds. Tends to be the best performance and the best value. They don't run too hot. They've got a very good warranty, good customer support, and the overall robustness of the drive is well known at this point. I haven't seen one fail yet. Also on sale today over at Amazon, the SanDisk 1 terabyte Extreme Pro USB flash drive. These are just regular size flash drives. They're not longer or wider like a lot of larger capacity flash drives. They also run very, very quickly. They're very reliable. They're from SanDisk. I have about 6 of these things, and SanDisk is owned by Western Digital. I've been buying SanDisk flash drives since the 90s, and I can't speak highly enough. This is my go-to flash drive. This is the largest capacity they make it in. It's very, very compact. The way that the USB port ejects with a little, the little switch, you move the switch up and down. It's very fluid moving. It's not difficult to move. It's got magnetic assist to lock it into position, either in the forward position with the USB connector exposed or in the parked position. It's very well constructed. I'm not paid by SanDisk to make this video or by any of the manufacturers who make these products. I just think they're a really good price, and I just want to bring it to your attention in case you've been waiting to purchase one of these, but we're wanting the price to be more reasonable. At $129.99, I wouldn't say that's a steal, but it's a good price. I think I've seen it once for about $110. So this is a very good price compared to what it's been normally selling for here on Amazon. And you can go back to a site like camel.com, and you can see the price history of any particular item on Amazon. And finally, it's hard to believe, but the AceMagician N95 based mini PC. So the N95 is like the Pentium or the Celeron processor. It's the budget line, but this is a 12th generation CPU. Now, of course, it's a bit limited with 8 gigs of RAM, but this does have a 256 gig solid state drive. Now, 16 gigs of RAM and a 512 solid state drive would be remarkable. However, in this price range, you see it says $219 even is what they're showing for the price. And there's a coupon here to apply a $50 off coupon instantly, which brings that price to $169 even. That is a full functioning computer with Wi-Fi, with Bluetooth, with Windows 11 Pro 64-bit. It supports dual monitors at 4K. It has USB 3.0. That is a steal. So well under the $200 price point. That's your case, your cooler, your power supply, your RAM, your storage, your CPU, your motherboard, your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, your sound card. All of that at $169 plus any applicable sales tax. Shipping is free. And because all of these items are available through Amazon, just so you know, you have the Amazon customer service that's risk-free, that if you buy anything you don't like, you can always return it within, it's typically 30 days. Sometimes it's a little longer than that. The shipping is free. The returns are free. So it's completely risk-free if you don't like any of these items for any reason. I think that that little AceMagician computer at $169 is an incredible value. It wasn't that long ago I paid that much money just for a copy of Windows 7 Pro or even Windows 10 Pro. I think the retail versions are still more than that. So this is coming with that already pre-installed. It's a fully functioning computer. This is not a gaming PC. This is a 4-core baseline CPU, which is a very solid performer, especially for ordinary user use, right? For browsing the web, for writing emails, for working in an office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. I'm sure some very low resource games will work fine, but that's not really what it's made for. It's made to be a reliable and secure PC, and would likely, if I had to estimate, be able to be usable and secure for at least 8 years. If you take care of it, if you're not constantly opening it up and messing around with the innards, but if you actually use it the way that it was intended to be used, I imagine this to be a very reliable PC, as the only moving part it has is the cooling fan. So because, first of all, a couple of things. Nobody's paying me to make the video. I'm doing this because I want you to know these specials are happening right now. I don't know when they will end. I don't know what sort of inventory is available. If you were leaning towards buying one of these items, I would not hesitate, because there's no guarantee the price won't change before I end this video, or that the product might sell out. I have more mini PC reviews coming up this Friday and next Friday. I've already done a review on this mini PC, and there are many other reviews, not only on the mini PC, but even on the flash drive. The Samsung 970 EVO Plus solid-state NVMe drive. That's 2 terabytes. There are reviews across YouTube, and as well, just Google search it if you want to learn more about them. But time is of the essence as far as the pricing goes. So I just want you to be aware that that is a heck of a deal if you're in the market for a second PC. When you consider how much it cost me to buy off-lease computers, and then for me to then put solid-state drives in them, and then repackage them and ship them again, it cost me more than this. It would actually be cheaper for me to buy one of these AceMagician computers at $169 and have Amazon ship it directly to a recipient than it would cost me to buy the off-lease computers, refurbish them, and then pay to repack and reship them again. Because shipping alone on these refurbished off-lease computers typically sets me back $60 to $80 for the packing and the shipping and the insurance. These brand new mini computers, unlike the off-lease computers, fully Windows 11 compatible. They have a warranty. The off-lease computers are not very upgradable, but also these little mini PCs aren't very upgradable either. So just putting it out there. Once again, I'm not paid by, I am paid by Amazon if you make a purchase using the links that I provide in my video description. I make a very small commission. So on these items that are like $200 or less, I make probably $1 for every $100. So it's a very, very small, like 1%, sometimes 2% commission, but it does add up, and it's a great way for you to not only get a great deal on hardware that I've actually used myself. I have no problem no hesitation or problem recommending these products. I cannot speak for the longevity or the support of the AceMagician hardware, except to say that my experience with them personally, which has been, only had a little bit of experience with them over the course of the last year or so. I have no issues with anything they've sent, and I just can't believe you can get a whole computer with Windows 11 Pro for $169. You can upgrade the RAM to 16 gigs if you wanted to. You could upgrade the storage if you wanted to, but you're now defeating the whole purpose of the price. But it's also not something you need to do right away. You could do that next year and sort of spread that cost out and make the PC more useful to you if you start to rely on it more. We're having more RAM or more storage as a requirement. And of course, you can always add storage via USB or even via the cloud. So I stumbled on those deals today, and when there's such a good deal like that, I want to shout it from the rooftops to make sure you guys know so you can take advantage of that, because what I often will hear is people saying, oh, I wish I would have known, I would have bought one. And I'm sure the comments that will be left on this video next week are going to say just that. So not much I can do to get people to stay current with my video releases, but you snooze, you lose, I guess, as the saying goes. And these deals are just in the USA. I can't speak for what's available in other countries at what prices. Really quickly, if anybody has any questions for me, I'll do my best to address them. Just an e-bike cyclist contributes $10. He says, hello, Carrie, sent you an email about stopping in Phoenix maybe tomorrow. Would love to meet you. I would love to. Unfortunately, yeah, that's not going to happen this week. I've got a ton of things going on. Maybe I'll be able to catch you if you're in Phoenix another time. But thank you so much for the contribution. And hello to everybody in blue and all my friends here joining me in the chat room today. This will be a shorter video. So as I mentioned, I got a mountain of stuff I've got to get done. And I don't have a lot of time today to spend on this video, but I will take a moment to address any questions you guys have while I'm here and I can. Knit Jam says similar prices on Amazon UK for us UK and EU viewers. Right on, good to know. Thank you for the update. So yeah, I guess people aren't hearing me about the $50 coupon, but that's why I showed the screen. Alan Lindas with a $7.77 contribution in Super Chat says, Carrie, thanks for the heads up on the Mini PC. I got it at that price and it will replace my aging Lenovo laptop. Yeah, if any of you buy these little Mini PCs, regardless if it's this brand or model, I'd love to hear feedback about what you think of it once you've had it and started using it. Good or bad, I'd love to hear from the actual people who buy them and rely on them, if they would buy them again, and perhaps there's some advantages or disadvantages you can make me aware of that I wouldn't know unless I'm using it in that capacity. Bikeman says, I might look into a Mini PC in the future if I ever need to replace my aging secondary gaming laptop. Only game I'd probably run is Second Life. Don Allen with a $20 Super Chat contribution says, thanks for the tip on the Mini PC. I just bought one. Right on. That's awesome. Mats Olaf Rickardson says, hello, Carrie. I'm here as always. Always good to see you. My friend Mats Olaf joining us from Sweden. Nick J says, what are your thoughts on Socket 1700 replacement frames? I've never needed one, so I think it's a complete waste of money. Likely what's happening, if anybody's bending their frame, is they're applying their CPU heatsink with too much force and they're blaming it on the frame. I think that when you apply the quality heatsink to your socket 1700 CPU and you do it correctly, this should not be an issue. I think people are very quick to point the blame away from themselves when they do something with too much force or too much pressure. It's never been a problem I've ever encountered, so I can't imagine why anybody would need it. But that would be my answer to your question. I've sold quite a few socket 1700 motherboards and just don't have any issues. I just don't know where this comes from. It's almost like a hypochondria for tech. Somebody sees something and they're like, I think I've got that. Stay away from WebMD. Taco says, I got a mini PC, but the fan has gone noisy. Not sure how easy to replace. What's the make and model of the mini PC? About how old is it? The good news is a lot of the mini PCs that are available today are using pretty industry standard parts now. So likely you can, in the case where I had a hard to find fan on an Intel NUC that was a bit older, I found them on eBay shipping out of China. And it was super easy to replace. It was just hard to source it. And by hard, I mean, trying to find it was a little bit of a search, but that should be getting easier and easier. Greg M says, I had the worst customer experience in years from Amazon last week when they would tell me one thing and then later contradict themselves. Yeah, unfortunately, you might get an employee who's not very good at their job, but I don't think that's reflective of Amazon. If I ever deal with the difficult customer service from any company, what I will do is end the call or end the chat session, and then I'll wait a couple hours and I'll try again. The likelihood of you getting the same person is very unlikely. And since most of the time the customer service representatives are very, very good, it's just a matter of just dealing with somebody else. Is the Samsung 970 EVO Plus TLC or QLC? Well, Kirk, why do you ask? That's my first question. I'm kind of looking at the Amazon page that has all the specs, but that's a very unusual question somebody would ask. And I'm just kind of curious what difference you think it makes. William Grayson says it's TLC. Thank you, William. Paul Howe says, I have a socket 1700. I've got no frame problems. Yeah, again, it's somebody does something online, they make a video about it, and then in the enthusiast community, you know, they shout fire in a crowded theater over a non-issue, and then they all convince themselves that this is something they need to worry about. I find it really like it's a part of the enthusiast community I've never gotten. I've never understood it, why there's no, I'd like to see more independent thinking rather than people just following others. But at the same time, if there was an actual problem that was affecting the vast majority of people or a significant amount of people enough to justify the content, I would make a video on it. The fact that I haven't probably answers the question that it's very uncommon, and it's usually, in my opinion, caused by the end user using too much force or not installing the cooler properly. Now, there is some argument to be made that the equipment should be built to handle the abuse of the end user, it is consumer grade equipment after all. But you can bend any socket frame. Obviously, the larger the socket frame is, the easier it'll be to bend due to the leverage. So it's more likely to happen on a larger socket, but put enough force on any of these sockets and you can bend them. Kirk says, I transfer very large files often for backup, and I don't have the slowdown factor I get with QLC. Interesting. It's a very unusual request. The vast majority of customers I speak to wouldn't be able to tell QLC from TLC or SLC, and furthermore, if they are copying large files, they're not doing it so often that this becomes like a slowdown in their day. Everybody copies large files from time to time, but to copy that many large files that often where that makes a real difference in your life, it's very, very unusual. Mike Visions with a 5-pound contribution says, hello, Carrie and everyone in chat. I hope you're all having a good day, evening, night, or morning, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you, Mike, and thank you for the super chat contribution. David Rivera says, how often do you recommend replacing CPU paste? I don't recommend replacing it ever. So unless you're a qualified technician and you're getting paid for your time to do it, a lot of computer problems I fixed are caused by somebody doing something to their computer based on some Enthusiast information they found online, and they had a computer that was running just fine and thought, well, I should probably replace the thermal paste to make it run better. Nothing wrong with it, but it's been a long time. Seems like a good idea. And well, they don't think they're going to break the PC. They end up breaking it. So unless you can afford and you're okay with damaging your computer and being without it or replacing it or paying for the repair, I strongly encourage you to not fix problems you don't have. There's this idea that you can avoid these problems when the fact of the matter is there is so much chaos in life that while I understand the desire to try to avoid unpleasantness, it's really just a placebo effect that you are doing something beneficial for the computer. As long as your computer is running within its operational range, whether it's in the higher end of the range, the middle, or the low, makes no difference on performance. Now, when you exceed that range, then you have a problem to be fixed. So if there is no problem, then I suggest you shouldn't try to fix it. So how often should you change CPU paste? My answer is never, unless you're trying to fix a problem. A lot of people do it because they're trying to avoid having a problem, which then, ironically, makes them a problem in many cases. And I really am a terrible businessman by telling you this. I should encourage you all to do it so that way I get more business potentially for people who make mistakes, or usually it's a mistake that's made. Even from the most competent of people, just screwdriver slips and right into the motherboard, and well, you're going to need a new motherboard. All for what? So if you want to change it, be my guest. But the only time I've ever changed thermal compound for a customer is when we have needed to replace the heatsink. Typically that's done because the fan dies. And even that's only happened a half dozen times or so with the Intel stock heat sinks from my business clients. And so when we change them out, we get the thermal paste all cleaned up and then we reapply it so that we have good thermal contact with the replacement heatsink. Other times, if it's just a fan on the heatsink and I can swap the fan out, then that's all that's done. We try to bring our amount of labor that needs to be done to a minimum to avoid overbilling the customer or keeping the customer down for an extended period of time to do unnecessary work. So what you do to your own computer is entirely up to you. ED Salt wants to know if they make an enclosure, you can put an M.2 in and use it like an external drive. Yes, I use one from a company called Pluggable, and I really like it a lot. And there's also one, Silverstone also makes them. You just need to determine if you need a SATA M.2 enclosure or an NVMe M.2 enclosure. Now, the Silverstone one I use will take either or, but it's intended to be a temporary solution. I've shown it here. If you search my channel here on YouTube for the review, you can see and learn more about it in great detail. But for me, I use it as a tool for data recovery or data rescue, or for cloning and things of that nature where I only need it in there for a short time. If I wanted it in a more permanent enclosure, Silverstone also makes some great enclosures, both SATA or NVMe. Just make sure you pick the right one that you need. And of course, pluggable is also another one. Yes, they do make a lot of them. Some of them are junk. No, I think they're all of varying build quality, but that's not really that important. So yes, they do make them, and I would search Amazon for M.2 enclosure and just determine if you want SATA or NVMe before you order it, or get one that will take either one if that's the case. But do know the price will go up for that, and let the Amazon reviews guide your purchase. And also know that when you buy anything from Amazon, you have that peace of mind that there's no risk. If you don't like what you purchased, you can send it back for free. So, and then you can let me know which one you ended up going with. I'd be curious. Nutty Light King wants to know if this is an Intel i9 13 Gen build. No, this is a 12600K. Sean wants to know if I'd do a video about SAS hard drives for storage. No, because Serial Attached SCSI is a server solution, and my videos are for home users. I don't make videos for enterprises. So that's not of the subject matter intended. This channel doesn't cover what people should be paid and educated on doing for a living. No home users are, let me rephrase. The widely vast array and variety of home users will not use or have need of an SAS drive. The vast majority of SAS drives are sold in businesses and corporations who have trained IT staff that are paid to maintain it. This trained IT staff should not be coming to YouTube to look to educate themselves on that. I expect better from those folks. So I don't make that kind of content because it's very niche. In other words, if I was making shoes, I would not want to make a size 30 shoe and nothing else. How many people could I possibly have that would have need for a size 30 shoe? So to find content that applies to the vast majority of people means we're dealing with approachable and practical subject matter. The enthusiast matter is already so covered on the internet. Most of it, 90% of it, is all enthusiast. And if you're a home user with SAS, probably an enthusiast channel would be more up your alley. If you're looking for the more rare practical information that applies to most end users, this is the place for you. XRod666 has been a member now for 9 months, right on. He says, why hello, Carrie, long time no see. Right on, right on. Jason Ryrick says he'll typically change thermal compound on systems that are very old and that it's never been changed on. Well, it's almost impossible to know whether or not the thermal compound has ever been changed. You're making an assumption, right? Customer might say they've never done it, but that doesn't mean somebody didn't do it and the customer forgot or has no recollection. Because I run a business and I'm held liable and accountable to the work I do, if I do work that's unnecessary, that's not justifiable, if I'm ever challenged on that in a court of law, if the customer doesn't want to pay the bill, I'm not quite sure I have a leg to stand on. Furthermore, if in doing so I cause a problem, or, and this is the tricky part, if the customer experiences any problem after I've worked on the computer, the immediate assumption is it's a direct result of whatever it was I did. My PC wasn't doing this until after you did whatever you did. So the customers don't necessarily have any concept or grasp of what it was you did. They're trusting you to fix their problem. So if you go in there and you're doing something that you're not paid to do because you want to be extra thorough, you are potentially putting your company at risk of liability. And in some cases, if a customer finds out, say another tech comes in there and some other tech resolves a similar problem in half the amount of time you spend, and the customer then pays, let's say, half as much because it was half as much time. And the customer then follows up with you and says, listen, I just found out this other person came out and did the same job you did and charged me half as much in half as much time. How do you justify yourself? And you say, well, I changed this and I, cleaned up your thermal compound. And customer can say, I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't authorize you. I didn't give you permission. That's not okay. So again, if you're a home user and you're just working on your own stuff, have at it. The only person you can hurt is you. It's not like you're going to sue yourself. It's not like you're going to put yourself out of business from your own work. When you're running a business and you're held accountable and liable and responsible for the value of other people's equipment, as well as you're billing them for your time, you better be able to account for that time if you are pressed to justify it. And doing unnecessary work because it just pleases your OCD or you think it's above and beyond in customer service, maybe just the opposite to the customer's perspective. Most customers want a cheaper bill and they want the work done faster. So don't do anything other than what needs to be done. That's the general rule in business, at least here in the United States. It's called CYA. We'll call it CYB, cover your butt. Better to be safe. When it's your own equipment, do whatever you want. Michael Shaw says, happy Monday. Hi, Michael. Happy Monday to you. There's Barry Klein popping in and saying hello. KY Engineer said, there's no reason to change thermal compound. The heat transfer coefficient will not change if you don't touch it. Well, that's a problem when we deal with enthusiasts, is you have all of these channels who in most cases do not have any, in most cases, formal education in this subject matter, which is thermodynamics and engineering. And furthermore, many of them have no work experience either. They're just really enthusiastic hobbyists. And so they will spend money and do impractical things, as hobbyists do, because that's where they find enjoyment in their hobby. But where it muddies the waters is when non-enthusiasts and non-hobbyists are watching so that they can make their computer run better, more reliably, run cooler, and they start prioritizing a bunch of things they're convinced that matter, when in reality and in the real world, very rarely ever come into play for repair purposes. So the amount of information they get and the way the information is designed is a bit one-sided. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. What I'm saying is anything that is not a repair shouldn't be repaired, because what you're doing is you're opening up the possibility of requiring a repair before you're done or as a result. So if you're an enthusiast and you're a hobbyist and that's just a way you like to occupy your time and educate yourself, it's a great way to learn, but not on somebody else's dime, not at somebody else's expense. So in general, my advice is going to be what I feel is in the best interest of the end user, which is if you want reliability and you want stability and you want to save money, use your computer for whatever reason you have it for. I see some people that never really use their computer other than to take it apart and keep improving it, and they're spending money after money after money after money. And you say, well, what justifies all of this time and money you're putting into this? It must be one heck of a project you use this computer for to justify all of that. And in most cases, at least on the internet, from people I talk to, no, they just got the idea from watching a video or reading a blog post or an article on Tom's Hardware and thought it'd be a good idea. No other reason, just thought it would be a good idea. It's more of a mood than it is anything logical or practical. So that's okay for you, but it's not okay for me or any business to operate in that way. Not if you want to stay in business. So I always want to give you a perspective from the business side of things. Just for you to think about. And of course, choose accordingly what's right for you. Bikeman said, a forum told me back in 2021 when my LGA 1200 stock cooler temp was high at 94C that some basic tasks you need to check is your thermal compound and replace the cooler. So I bought a Be Quiet Pure Rock 2, except the install didn't go well with the Be Quiet Pure Rock 2. Forgot to take it along to the local shop. So I ended up with an Arctic Freezer 7X. Should I someday take the PC to shop to get Be Quiet installed? Again, if you're having a problem, I can see a computer running at 94C with no issues that needs to be fixed, personally. That's within its operational range. It is designed to run at 94C without a problem. Now, if you're reaching, let's say you're getting up to 100C and the CPU is throttling itself and your PC performance is going down the toilet, at that point, here's where the problem from my perspective as a tech. You have convinced yourself you've already solved your own problem. You've convinced yourself that the Pure Rock 2 is going to solve your problem rather than the Arctic Freezer. As a technician, if I encounter a customer who's telling me how to do my job or what cooler I need to use on their system, unless I agree with them, I'd rather not do the work. If you're having a problem and you want to solve it yourself, then solve it yourself. If you're having a problem and you take it to the shop, then let the professionals that you're paying tell you what cooler you should be putting on there to solve the problem you're having. You should pick a lane, do one or the other. If you're not having any problem, if all the problem is in your mind, I don't know how to fix that problem. If you're convinced that your temps are too high, even though the system's not crashing and the system's not slowing down, what's our goal? What are we trying to achieve when it's all said and done? What is it you want to see? Because if you'd have told that to the shop, I'm sure they would have done what they needed to do to get you there. Instead of saying, I'm having a problem because my temps are at 94C and I have the solution, but I don't know how to install it. It sounds to me like you'd be better off hiring some high school kid out of Craigslist so you can tell him what to do. An expert in the field, and I can't speak for the shop you went to, but a reputable shop should know what the best cooler is for you if it's an issue of noise or size or cooling capacity. It depends on what the customer's expectations are. But just the fact that you convinced yourself you had a problem, I would argue you never had a problem and that you've not solved anything because there was nothing wrong with it. Agreed that 94 is hot. It's absolutely hot. However, it's not too hot. Now, there are some people online that'll say, oh, I can't believe this guy claims to be a professional and he thinks 94C isn't too hot. He's got to be out of his mind. Talk to the engineers at Intel who developed the chip. They will tell you, if that was too hot, that chip would shut down. So you're well within your operational range. Now, some might argue, yeah, but it doesn't give you much room to go beyond that. Likely, you can't go anywhere beyond that. That is likely the highest temp your CPU will ever achieve, no matter how hard you push it. And that's within operational range. There's no problem to solve. So if you just want to waste money and you're looking for something to do, have fun. But if you have an actual problem you want to solve, like an actual measurable problem that has negative consequences until it's fixed, and now those negative consequences go away, I would love to give you that information. This obsession with heat on the internet is basically a disease. It is a mental disease, and it's extremely contagious. And I encourage all of you to not invent problems based on some numbers you're seeing from some software. You need to have symptoms. If there are no symptoms, you don't have any problems that need to be fixed. That's my professional opinion on this matter. Find Me in Hawaii says, aloha, Nutty and Carrie and members, dropping in for a few minutes to say howsy. Welcome in, Ken. Good to see you, my friend. Doman said unnecessary high temps can be a nuisance on laptop cooling noise. So if that can be fixed, it's worth fixing. Well, to you. But you have to understand that opening up laptops, especially modern day laptops where everything's very, very tiny and things clip together, and those clips are very easy to break, and you're having to use a spudger, which can mar the edges of the laptop, that will drive some customers nuts, that some little tiny ding in the edge of the laptop where you had to use a spudger to open it might be something where the customer says you've damaged it. So if you have cooling issues with your laptop, my advice is let the manufacturer take care of it. If you've got a laptop that's cost you over $1,000, my advice is you get the extended warranty. And that way, for the entire period of that extended warranty, plus the manufacturer warranty, if you have any problem at all, you hand that off to the manufacturer. Because unlike a repair technician, if the manufacturer screws it up, they can replace it. A technician likely doesn't have the budget or the income to replace your laptop because they've damaged it in fixing it. You have solved one problem of, let's say, a noisy fan, but you've created another problem where the lid no longer snaps closed properly, where the edges are marred, or, I mean, I've seen so much damage to laptops from people doing their own work, and especially when they're doing it on somebody else's laptop, it's so disrespectful. Yeah, it's not a road I want to go down. You definitely need some accountability there. So, by default, if the laptop is having a problem, I would go to the laptop manufacturer. If the laptop's more than 3 years old, and you want to do that yourself and you understand the risks, have at it. But it's a very unusual reason to open up a very delicate piece of equipment because you find the fan's too noisy. I don't know, it seems to me there's a lot of other solutions that would be much cheaper and more practical, such as putting some earbuds in, or, just get a can of compressed air. Without opening the laptop, spray out the laptop as best you can through the vents. If it's under warranty, let the manufacturer deal with it. I just don't think it's worth the risk. But I've met people where the sound of the fan drives them absolutely up the wall. And if you're one of those people, you do not represent the majority of computer owners. That's somebody being very, very nitpicky, or in rare circumstances, there's something wrong with the fan. Perhaps something like hair got wound in it or something. Or it's really old and really should have been replaced, the whole laptop. In many cases, if this is an issue, it's likely going to be an issue with a laptop that's already obsolete anyway. But again, as hobbyists, if you guys want to take these risks and you see that as a positive thing because you enjoy the experience, I'm with you on it. I say, yeah, enjoy your experience. But that doesn't mean I recommend that people do this, right? Out of necessity. That's something that's, again, more of an emotional need. And you certainly don't need my okay to work on your own computer. But I certainly won't encourage you to work on it and take risk of damaging it unnecessarily if you do damage it and now you've had a laptop that works and you've turned it into a laptop that doesn't work and now you have nothing and you're going to blame me for that? No, thank you. Some people might say, well, how else would I learn if I don't open it up and work on it? You're making an assumption that everybody wants to learn that. There are much more risk-free ways to work on machines, like buying used machines from Goodwill, places like that, where you can buy used equipment, and then there's no pressure about damaging it. You can take it apart. You don't have to worry about if you break anything, and you get the experience on the cheap stuff. I wouldn't just go right to your main computer that you rely on every day and risk doing work to it that could break it, with the idea being, well, at least I would learn. If you are in an emotional state of mind or you are distraught because now you have no connection to the internet or whatever this machine is that's so important to you, and you've taken it from a working state but noisy fan to a complete non-working state, and now the fan doesn't turn at all, or the machine doesn't boot anymore but now the fan is quieter. If you're willing to accept that risk and you're okay with that potential downside of it, have at it. But if you don't open it up and you don't get in there, then that's a risk you can completely avoid 100%. Right? So that risk is really up to you. And of course, if you're working as a business and you're fixing other people's equipment, you better be prepared to replace it if you damage it, if you get in over your head. It is you broke it, you bought it kind of a situation there. And in that case, you probably won't be in business very long if somebody was paying you $100 to fix a problem and you end up having to replace their laptop for several $100s. Now it's costing you money to be in business instead of making money. So it's either got to be something very simple to get at, or something you're already experienced at, or you're working for a larger corporation that has your back in those scenarios. I will tell you that when people's computers go down and they don't have a backup computer to use, you don't want to be on the other side of that, I'm telling you. So when you do it to yourself, you're on both sides of it at the same time. It's not my problem, but I certainly do not encourage it unless you fully understand the risks you're taking. Alan Spain says, just wanted to let you know I'm still using the PC you sent me and still working great. Thank you. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Nutty Light King says, do you have a parts list with prices for this build? No. I'm assuming you're talking about this build here. That's not a build I did on video. And prices change almost daily, if not, at the very least weekly. So when I make a video and I publish it, it's up forever. You can go back and find videos from me from 2008, 2009. And whatever prices things were, it's very little consequence today. So I try to avoid talking about prices unless it's of the moment. So I'm very specific that what today's day and year are, where the price is, how long the price will be that way, because within a matter of months, that price may seem outrageous one way or the other. And builds change constantly too. So you can certainly look through my past video libraries. There's probably over 100 builds of varying Intel and AMD processors, many of which you couldn't buy today if you wanted to because they don't make a lot of the parts anymore. And the builds I do are primarily designed around the needs of a specific end user, not one size fits all. So this build here I did off camera. It was just something I needed to get some spare parts put together, and it does not have a customer, and I don't have a plan with what I'm doing with it. But this is a 12600K with 16 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte drive with Windows 10 installed and activated. That's all it is. It's really a pretty basic machine. I don't know what case or power supply is going to go in it because that will be determined by the buyer, what the buyer's budget is and what the buyer's needs are. It's pretty rare I make two machines that are the same. When I do that, it's typically for a business where we want conformity across, for support reasons, and also for politics, right? If one employee has a better computer than the other employee, it's why did that employee get the better one? And the nightmare of supporting it, which motherboard does that one have? So in circumstances of dealing with businesses ordering multiple PCs, it's so much easier to make them all the same for those reasons. But generally speaking, the builds you see here on this channel are all custom one-of-a-kind builds. Very rare when you see two that are alike. It happens, but it's not normal. Elko says, working on laptops is a specialty. Even for a computer repair, I only do it for close friends and family, and I'm really careful because of those annoying little plastic retention clips. Yes, I'm hesitant to even open up my own Dell XPS laptop because every time I have to open it, I've got to use that spudger, and I'm always gouging into the side, no matter how gentle I am with it, and it just really bugs me. So there's a part of me that wants to update the storage drive and the Wi-Fi card, put some Wi-Fi 6E in it. And it's really easy to do, but getting the laptop open is, well, it makes me very nervous. I'm afraid I'm going to crack something, and I'm also worried about, every time I use the spudger and I'm twisting it, it's digging into the plastic, and the more I do it, the more little digs I have, unless I'm extremely cautious and try to line it perfectly with where I lined it before. And it takes a lot of time and patience, and it's just not worth it to me. I'd rather just slap a USB Wi-Fi 6E on there than open it up. I wish it had a little access door. If it had a little access door, it'd be no big deal. But Dell did not make that easy, and so I'm reluctant. I've opened it twice, and every time I open it, it feels a little looser every time I put it back together. So I'm just thinking of how badly do I want that Wi-Fi 6E versus when's going to be the last time I open it where the little clips are finally going to give on one side, and when I screw it back together, there's going to be a seam that starts to appear, and my OCD will drive me crazy, and the value of that laptop cost me over $2,000. I'm not ready for it to be in that potential condition. It's not worth it to me. It is certainly not my specialty. Perhaps somebody that does that all day, 5 days a week, would say, oh, that's nothing. But it's definitely not nothing to me, and especially when it's my $2,000. So I'm very hesitant to open it up. If I open it up, it's got to be for a really good reason. And while I'm in there, I'll be sure and blow out the dust. I won't change any thermal compound or anything like that. I might check the CMOS battery while I'm in there, maybe. If I have an opportunity to upgrade the RAM for any reason, I'm going to take care of it all while I'm in there. It's about the best I can tell you. Solern says, I hate working with laptop screens, especially HP these days, also ever since the screws apparently weren't enough. And they just had to add that awful sticky strips on the back. Yeah, well, more and more they're kind of gluing stuff together. Microsoft Surface laptops, smartphones. I won't work on any of those. Apart from the little access door to upgrade the storage or the RAM on those Surfaces, Microsoft Surface Pros, as far as I'm concerned, they're not repairable. As long as you're in warranty or you have an extended warranty, send it back to the manufacturer, let them deal with it. I really admire the people that do work on cell phones because it's very delicate work and you need specialty tools. I wouldn't do it. So they have the utmost respect for me, the fact that they do that. Blakeman said, I bought this HP Omen gaming laptop in 2017, and yeah, I'm not opening it unless I really, really have to. Wish mine had access doors. I'll tell you what, there are some laptops that are an absolute pleasure to work on. Super easy access to the RAM, to the storage, to the Wi-Fi card. Those are about the only 3 reasons you should need to open one up in most scenarios. And Linda says, hey, it's another use for duct tape. Yeah, you know what? If you want to put duct tape on a $2,000 laptop, you have at it. I've seen it before. I've seen people treat their laptops like it was a $2 notebook they bought, like a paper notebook like some kid would draw on in high school. I've seen people physically write on top of their laptops. I've seen people have stickers all over them, to the point where it gets very difficult to open the laptop when they've unknowingly sealed the laptop closed with stickers, and then those stickers won't peel off. And so when you give the laptop back to the customer, you can't return it back to them in the same state, because some of the stickers will have torn or been cut and will forever be that way. Most of those customers that do that don't care, though, at least from my experience. If they're putting stickers all over their laptop, they don't care too much about how it looks. That is typically residential. You don't usually find that in businesses. Flavor of the month says, Carrie, I just discovered if I change my DisplayPort cable from my GPU to my DisplayPort on my motherboard, it still uses my GPU and I gain 20 frames. This is news to me, as I thought it used the integrated GPU. Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to, but whatever works for you, man. All right, guys, so I just wanted to make the short video to make you aware of those sales that are going on today at Amazon. I don't know, again, how much inventory is in place, and I don't know when these prices will revert back to their regular prices. Could happen any minute, could happen in a couple of days, I don't know. So if you're interested in any of these items, I would suggest you act now, or there may not be the price or inventory that's not guaranteed, unless you make the purchase. Find Me in Hawaii says, Carrie, just wanted to say I really enjoyed the rebuild on the train case for Peter. You touch on a lot of subjects I could relate to. And in short, it was a great train ride. Right on. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Matsolov says, just glue the darn thing together. Hey, that works once until the next time you have to open it. And then what are you going to do? Laptops are not made to be taken apart. Yeah, that's pretty true. Manufacturers don't want you opening it. Josiah Guernsey's been a member now for 7 months and continues with his membership supporting the channel. Right on, Josiah. I see Rick Lakes has joined us. Welcome in, Rick. Nutty Light King wants to know if the B660 DS3H board, is that the newest Intel socket? It is socket 1700, which is Intel's latest socket, but it's not Intel's latest chipset. Not that there's a big difference between the, say, the 600 series and what are they at, the 700 series now? And the 500 series, I think was socket 1200. No, it's a pretty modest board. You could certainly Google it and look up reviews here on YouTube, or even go to Amazon and look at the the product page on the website from Amazon, and you can even go to Gigabyte and pull up the product manual if you want to learn more about it. It's pretty much a basic no-frills motherboard. It's not RGB. It doesn't have a whole lot of accoutrements. It's just a good, basic, solid motherboard, in my opinion. And these are getting harder and harder to find, you know, with companies focusing on more profitable gaming designs, where they'll put plastic all over, you know, they'll put plastic over the I/O shield. That often gets in the way of installation into the case. It can get in the way of cabling. It can get in the way of even installing coolers. And it's all just for looks. And when they add the, 50 cents worth of plastic, they can charge $20 more for the board. So manufacturers, of course, want higher profit items to focus on. This is not one of those. This is a pretty basic, no frills board. And I've been a fan of the B series boards and the H series boards from Gigabyte, and even Asus for that matter, because I think they're good value for the money. If you don't need all the whiz and bang, you know, you're not going to be overclocking on this board. It's not a showpiece. It's not there to wow your eyeballs. It's there to be a reliable, solid, responsive and robust board at a very aggressive price point. So primarily that is my focus because of consumers always, you know, wanting the cheapest price possible. And if I have to support it, which if I sell it, I have to support it, I want to use something that's reliable and has fewer things to break. I don't need a support call that my RGB isn't working. That's not important to me. That doesn't impact business. You know, I guess unless your business is, you know, somehow using the machine as a prop, like it's a display piece when you walk into the lobby or something. But yeah, for me, it's really about practicality. It's not about the latest and greatest. It's not about, you know, bleeding edge. It's about reliability, and it's about performance for the money, for the value, performance for the dollar. David Rivera says, I noticed you use Gigabyte often. Is that one of your favorite manufacturers? Yes, yes. My personal preference is Gigabyte. Mm-hmm. I've used all the other manufacturers, the big ones, MSI, ASRock, and Asus. But for every one of those I use, I probably use 10 or 15 Gigabyte boards. Again, for consistency, for support, I am a business. I have to support what I sell. If I'm selling ASRock to one customer, Asus to another customer, Gigabyte to another customer, MSI to another customer, can you imagine how difficult it would be to try and support all of that? So you kind of have to pick a lane when you're in business. Find a company you trust, find a company that you believe offers you value, that will be there for you if you need them. And no matter what the price is, if the company is not responsive or timely in responding to a support request, it looks bad on me to my customers. So I can't afford to use those companies. And that's just based on my experience, not on anybody else's. And it's my business. So if I fail in my business, it won't be your fault. It'll be my fault. It won't be MSI's fault. It'll be my fault for choosing them. So the reasoning behind why I choose the manufacturers is very different from the reasoning you'll hear online, generally speaking. I need sustainability. I don't want to have to pick another career. I'd like to stay in this line of work until I can't do it anymore. But if I sour my reputation by doing unnecessary work, by charging too much and no longer being competitive, or having machines that are unreliable and it's not timely to get it back up and running to the customer, and it's costing me money, I likely won't be in business very long. So yeah, that's why I feel like this kind of content is desperately needed on YouTube to counter all the enthusiast content, because you would think enthusiast content was the only way to view computers and technology, when in fact, when you're running a business, you'll quickly learn if you want to stay in business, if you want to be sustainable, you're going to have to make your decisions based on entirely different criteria than what you've been fed here on YouTube and online on the internet overall. Not that it's intentional, not that it's devious. It's just the way it is, and most people are unaware of it. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for your participation, and thanks for hanging out with me today. The links for the solid-state drive, the mini PC, and the flash drive are all in the video description below the video. I will see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.